And we are live, and your eyes do not deceive you. We do not have a guest yet. He has a Mac and is downloading Chrome and will be on in a moment. So, in the meantime, Ro, tell us about your writing project.
The Sigil of Enderman?
Yes.
Yeah, I just, probably 15 minutes ago, made it through my edit. I do have some edits from a couple of alpha readers that I have to go through and make and rewrite the first couple of chapters, but then it's done. I'm very excited.
Okay.
My first in over a year. So.
Okay. And Proxima Station for me, my line editor has given it back to me with some sage advice.
He's very good like that.
And I have finished taking his sage advice, and then I made changes after the fact because that's what I do. I'm on the final listen through before I send it to my proofreader, and it should be ready in a week or so to send out for ARCs and whatnot.
You've already got a review on it.
I already have a review from my beta reader, which I usually say don't because it might change slightly, but somebody couldn't resist and gave me a 5-star rating. And I'm actually I believe 183rd in humorous sci-fi rankings in Amazon.
Wow.
Which, yeah.
No book sold in one ranking.
No, sorry. 357th in humorous sci-fi science fiction and 1854 in first contact science fiction, and it's not out for over a month.
So if you write humorous science fiction, you will propel to the top very quickly, is what you're saying.
There's not a lot of people there. Sina, she's writing, hopefully not humorous science fiction. I don't want competition.
What are you writing, Sina? If she's still there, I don't know. Our little thing says that we're just talking to ourselves right now.
Well,
Oh no, it just updated again. So who knows?
Nice.
And so our guest, who is our guest? Let's introduce him before he pops on. He's calling from England, so it's late at night there. He might be Ben Dixon.
That is our guest.
Or Nixon.
Dixon.
Dixon.
Not the president who went out in shame.
And what does Ben write?
Good question. I knew this when I said, hey, come on the show, but it's been over a month. And, I'm just lucky that my goldfish brain remembered that it was 4:00 today. We're actually interviewing someone.
I'm glad you did too, because I was getting ready to send out something saying 7. You send in. See, this is what happens when, due to our lack of preparation, we have nothing to fill this time right now with anything else. But I'm not in my little apartment in DC, which is nice. I'm at home, which is fun. So I got to take out a giant hornet's nest today. It was probably about the size, almost the size of a football. It was huge, and I did get stung once between some fingers here. So otherwise, huzzah.
So while we wait for Ben. And I can't see the graphic here what his book is. Hold on. Vengeance and Honor, a heroic quest. I like it already.
Gotta love a heroic quest.
Yeah, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so yes, absolutely. What else is there?
What was your favorite video game?
Mine?
You must have gone to the arcade.
Donkey Kong.
Really?
Yeah. I was never a good
asteroid guy.
I tried asteroids, but once you get the ship moving, I was dead within 5 seconds.
All right, fair enough. Well, what about the other one where you spin around? How was that called? I can see it. Huh?
All I can tell you is on our Atari 2600, my mom used to play Space Invaders, and she loved it because she just, with them all being in rows, she's like, this is like my students. And she sat there the whole time going, get Miss Moment, and she fired and killed all the Space Invaders who.
Beastmasters, I don't remember Beastmasters. Oh, there's Ben.
Hi.
Hey, how are you, Ben?
Very
Good.
well. Yeah. Sorry for the technical hitches there.
Yeah,
That's
you're being a Mac. It's to be expected.
We've just been floundering like normal, so no one's surprised.
Okay.
All on brand. Whereabouts are you calling in from?
So I live near Guildford in England, southeast England, so fairly close to London, about 30, 40 miles from London.
South of London or north?
Southwest of London.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's sweltering here today. I had to put some clothes on to be able to call you because it was.
Sweltering is what, 23, 24?
Well, here it's just over 30 today, so about 86 in your language, and
Okay. Yeah, that is hot for England, actually. Yeah, that's the beauty of air conditioning.
yeah. Every summer, England gets a little bit of heat, and then we all think, perhaps we should get air conditioning, and then it never happens. And the next summer, the same thing happens again. But yeah, we should. Perhaps I'm sure we should.
That is like a life-size R2D2 mug. Holy hell!
Well, it's big enough to fit in a bit of work ethic, which is hard to do to keeping that cool for me tonight.
Nice.
I'm
on water today, so yeah.
Well,
I'm drinking Killian's Irish Red, so.
Killian's nice. All right.
I know it's not so late in the evening for you guys, is it? It's,
No, it's like 4 in the afternoon here. It's great.
It's tea time. If we did tea time.
How did you connect with Mike, Ben?
through Instagram. And I can't remember, Mike, did you contact me first? Did I contact you? Maybe I saw that you were doing these interviews with indie authors and thought you'd give me a chance. And I'm glad you did.
Ro asked me this while we were waiting, and I was like, I don't know. It was over a month ago. I don't know. One way or another, we connected, and then we were, let's do it. And we try not to do weekends. So we're off today, Ro and I, for Juneteenth. So why not do it today?
Yeah, it takes a little while to find convenient time for everybody to be on at the same time, doesn't it? Especially when there's a time difference involved.
Yeah, when you got 5 or 6 hour time shift.
Yeah.
But we figure it out. So, how many books do you have, Ben?
I've written 4, and I'm on my 5th. Probably not very far in, only about 7,000 words into my 5th. And I'm on a bit of a change of direction with the 4th one and the series that I hope is going to follow on from that. So this is I'm on Sword and Sorcery now, which is perhaps more what your viewers are used to you talking about. But I did do teen humor before that. The kind of cheeky edge to teen humor. But the guys in that were always playing a Dungeons and Dragons quest throughout all the books, and that was always something that I'd been interested in as well. So it was not a natural segue on from the teen humor, but yeah, it's what I chose to go on to, and I can't resist the sort of cheeky jokes in the Sword and Sorcery one as well. Trying to keep it moving with a few jokes here and there.
How many of the teen humor books do you have?
I've done 3. They're all about this boy called Neil Peel, a boy who always tells the truth. And he's starting his new school. He's 11 years old to start with. He's got an evil genius older sister called Lemony Peel. And because he always tells the truth, he gets into trouble with bullies, classmates, his extended family. And always puts his foot in it, says the wrong thing. And I hope there was a heart in there as well. It's supposed to be cheekily humorous, but also have a heart and a nice side to it all. I didn't want to have to bend the stories to what seems to be acceptable for teens to be reading at the moment. I think bookshops and publishers decide what they should be reading. I try to write what they wanted to read instead, which might be the kind of thing they look for in a comedy film. If you have outrageous comedy, which is what a lot of teens will want to watch, I thought, why not have the same in a book? And there's not a lot out there for that age bracket to read, where there's plenty for them to watch. So I thought, well, I know that a lot of readers dip off and stop reading when they get to 11, 12, 13, 14. So I wanted to give them something that might appeal in the way that the comedy films do as well.
Do you have kids of your own?
So did I have?
Do you have kids?
Yeah, well, I've got, there was a second one, which is the follow-up, Neil Peel's Holiday.
Do you have children?
Oh, sorry, do I have children? Yeah, I have 4. Yeah,
Right, okay.
ranging from 13 to 24. But in the books that I've written, although they are aimed at teens, I suppose, I always sort of write for myself as well and try to include plenty for adults to like, so that to the effect that actually the teens and younger readers probably don't understand half the stuff they're reading, but any adult who does is going to say, "What, he actually said that? I can't believe you're getting away with that." And my older children did the proofreading and ended up having to rein me in on things where I thought I'd gone too far with what I was trying to put into the books.
See, I would think a teen humor book would just consist of a whole lot of eye rolling and, kind of like, oh, kill yourself kind of comments, as teens are wont to do.
Well, I definitely tried to keep it not to any generation particularly. So I've steered away from technology, for instance. So there's no mention of having a phone or any of that sort of thing. He's because that sort of thing is out of date within 2 years if you put anything in. If I'd mentioned Instagram or Snapchat, and that could well be well out of date in 5 years' time. So I try to make. He's more of an outdoors boy with his friends and so on, and that sort of thing is not going to, I hope, go out of fashion. And I try to make it everyday situations that everyone goes through. So sex education lessons, disco at school, all the birthdays, holidays, Christmas, but through the eyes of this guy who always tells the truth, and how he interacts with his friends and family along the way. So I'm hoping that anyone who's an adult reading it will have nostalgia for, oh yeah, I remember that the grandparents, this is just like my grandparents, or he's got a religious Auntie Sue, and everybody has that religious auntie in their family who the situations I hope that everyone will be able to recognize, even if it didn't directly happen to them, stuff we've all been through or all know about.
Yeah. Having protagonist who always tells the truth, or has to tell the truth. I mean, we all know from being kids that it's difficult enough when you're trying to skirt the truth. There's plenty of bullies and everything. I mean, look at Mike. You can tell he was bullied.
He's inviting you.
So to always tell the truth, I mean, do you find yourself kind of like having to strain to come up with scenarios that were plausible for him to have to, where the truth would be, funnier or more, make more of a conflict than just, normal kid talk?
Well, I wanted to put all these situations like I mentioned into the story, and I always thought, what would it be like if you were in these situations and you always told the truth? How realistic would that be? And in some ways, that's why I stopped after book 3, because he's about to be 13 then, and I thought, if he's going to carry on telling the truth, and there's a love interest and in there as well. If he gets to 14, 15, 16, and he only ever tells the truth, I thought, am I going to get into the kind of situations writing for an audience where the perhaps 11-year-olds, perhaps my youngest readers, won't be able to read it anymore? Because when read the Harry Potter books, and you see the films of those, and he's supposed to be 16, 17, 18, and he'll I don't know if you're allowed to say rude words on this show or not, but if he says the worst he will say is piss and bloody, and I think, well, hang on, he's 16, 17, 18, he ought to be dropping the F-bomb all the time here. And it grates a little on the reality. Now, I know there's a reason that Neil Peel always tells the truth, and it's explained at the beginning of the first book. And it's, in a way, it's a bit of stubbornness that's continued. It's not magic or fantasy or anything that he does this. He's just decided to do it when he was 5 years old and continued, and decided that even though it gets him into some difficulties, it usually turns out for the best in the end. So, for instance, in the first book, he overhears his dad on the phone talking to a woman, and his dad is saying, "I love you," on the phone. And he's struck with this dilemma of, should he tell the truth to his mom, or should he not? Should he break his rule? And he decides that it's actually, he is going to tell the truth and continue with what he started, and it will be for the best. It won't torture him forever. And with giving a little spoiler, it turns out that his dad was trying to arrange a Valentine's present, and he was getting someone to make the cake, and he wanted to write "I love you" in icing on the top. So it turns out all right in the end. I can see what you mean, Ro, that would there be strange situations where it would become aching to read it? But I hope, and from what reviewers have said, that it's turned out to be realistic enough, but keeping humor in there as well.
And I hope his father learned a lesson too, and that is to never talk around his son.
Well, he did. He was trying to tell his son, "Don't say anything to mom. You don't understand." But mom comes up, and I think he's going to try never to keep a secret from her again, because it just won't work with someone who always tells the truth around.
Yeah. Does my ass look big in this? Yes, it does. It looks enormous. You should never wear that again.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to have problems dating.
So, Ben, we have E.L. Montague in the comments, and I'm surprised that he has not demanded yet that you show us all of your book covers, but that is coming. He's probably talking to clients or something now, and he can't. But can you show us your book covers? Yeah,
the very first one was The Heroic Truths of Neil Peel, it's called. Mm-hmm. You see Neil and his friends and his sister at the far side, the bullies down at the bottom, and his school is called Titfield School. Gives you a little idea of some of the humour that's in there, I suppose. Neil Peel's Holiday, the sequel. He goes on vacation to Mallorca with his best friend and his family. There's a romance with his sister and the pool boy, who may or may not be a bad guy. And a parody of the Stephen King Overlook Hotel scene in there as well, which I enjoyed dropping in. The final one in that series is called Neil Peel's Rival. This chap called Damien Devlin joins the school and has got it in for Neil. Has decided that he is his nemesis and tries to take his girl, his role in the school play, and bring him down at any opportunity. And then the new one, I hope you can get the angle right there, is called Vengeance and Honor, and that's the sword and sorcery one. There's a little sword emblazoned on there. I'm not sure if the light's good to see that.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the new one.
And,
so,
go ahead. He has more demands.
Wall art.
The wall art behind you.
Okay. Well, they are record covers. They're mainly my wife's. It's her home office. She works from home a lot, so I did change a couple. So there are my two Queen ones up there, Day at the Races and The Game, and there are some others on my wife's, which are World Party and The Water Boys. And actually, I don't know if you can see it in that corner over there. There is a Star Wars picture of a character called Mossep. And the Star Wars collectible card game card of her. It's actually, I think it was supposed to be a male alien, but it was played by an actress, and she has signed it, and that is mounted on the wall behind me on the other side.
Nice.
So, judging from that, then, in your mug of choice, you are a Star Wars kind of guy. I
am, yes, and there's actually lots of in-jokes of Star Wars running through the three Neil Peel books, and also the final chapter in Vengeance and Honor is called New Hope, not A New Hope, but New Hope. And I'm hopeful that since I ended up having to use my phone rather than the Mac, I don't know if you can quite see, I've got I think I got bitten on the eye by a mosquito the other night. And one of the chapters in Neil Peel's Rival is called Return of the Red Eye, which is actually due to a character coming back who's got allergies. But yeah, there are a lot of Star Wars references throughout, and the characters drop little bits in here and there of plenty of Star Wars and pop culture references all through.
Okay, so if we break the Star Wars films up into their 3 segments, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. What are the best ones?
4, 5, 6.
Okay. What are the ones
in
that
my
should
youth.
have been made? Or do you like them all?
Well, I was lucky enough actually to see the premieres of Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker in Leicester Square in London, because my brother works in the cinema business. So I came out of those two very happy that I'd seen the premieres of them, but also wincing a little bit about the what they made me feel. And of course, I was very excited when the Phantom Menace was coming out, because it had been 16 years since I've been able to see a Star Wars film in the cinema. And again, had slight mixed feelings about that. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Darth Maul, the pod race, and that sort of thing. Other parts of it, less so. But yeah, 4, 5, 6 were fantastic for me. They were my films growing up, and the ones I watched over and over again on video, VHS, because that's all you could do at the time. Then I suppose I enjoyed Revenge of the Sith more than Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, but still found plenty to enjoy in that. There were annoying parts like C-3PO kicking his head around, and forced jokes like "What? This is such a drag," and that sort of thing. I enjoyed Force Awakens, except that it was too familiar, I suppose, being not quite a copy of A New Hope, but very, very similar.
It's absolutely a copy of A New Hope. It was just a gender-swapped version of A New Hope. It's the same movie.
Yeah, and definitely felt like 7, 8, and 9 had not been written with a clear story going through them before they started doing Force Awakens, and I felt that was a shame, because the arc wasn't there to follow through, in my opinion. But of course, everybody will have their own thoughts on it.
So I have a question for you. It's probably the most controversial question of the whole evening for you.
Okay.
When you're eating your scones, which goes first, jam or cream?
Well, for me, it would be cream first and then jam. I think that depends on the battle comes from whether you use the Devon method or the Cornish method. Devon and Cornwall being the home counties of scones and cream and jam, and but that's the way round. I always put it on. I think it's probably easier to spread cream and dollop jam than it is to dollop cream, and and it could end up with a massive dollop of cream, which is okay for some people if you're a real cream fan. But I would rather have slightly less cream and then dollop the jam. What is that? What about you? Which way around would you do it?
So actually, when we had our first guest who was from Cornwall, so you know which way he went, I actually ordered cream and had it delivered, and I tried it, and I was like, I don't get it. I don't know why anyone just use butter. Butter is better.
What did you put it on, Mike?
Well, I mean, I didn't have scones, so
Well, see, the scone is the worst bit of the whole thing.
If they're fresh, if you make them fresh, they're much nicer, of course, like anything. But if you make your own, you make them fresh, then they are nice and warm. The cream slightly melts a little bit, then it's a delicious thing.
So actually, I put them on croissants because,
Croissants.
Anyway,
Wrong side of the channel there, Michael.
I'm trying to get us banned in at least one country.
So Ben, why fantasy as opposed to sci-fi, or I mean the switch? And is this book like the first of a series, or you got like a trilogy planned under this?
Well, yes, I think with when I was writing the Neil Peel books, I wrote the first one and left it open at the end. Wrote the second one and that left it open at the end, and I had ideas for a third. And then at the end of the third, I decided to stop. But other readers were saying, no, I want some more. But I thought, no, this is the right point to stop it. And then I tried a thriller, which I enjoy reading very much, but I just didn't find I had the mind for that at all. I did try it, but it didn't work, and it was not something that was drawing me back to the computer to write again, even though I had the whole thing mapped out. And then I also tried to write something futuristic, which would have been more sci-fi. I had an idea of, which I think has probably been done in different ways by other authors many times before, a future where half of the population opts out of real life, gets plugged into a simulation where everything is nice and easy, and they've just basically got one tube in and one tube out, but otherwise they're stacked up and not taking part in real life, whereas the other half would be productive and not use as many resources because there are only half the people in the world. But I just didn't have the knowledge to go through without how it would all work from a sociological point of view, and where everything would from the food and all that sort of thing. So again, I didn't get very far in that. But sword and sorcery is something that I have always been interested in, that fantasy world, right from reading those Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone choose your own adventure fighting fantasy books back in the 80s, and through all that fantasy lore, the films and so on, Conan and that sort of thing. And I thought, well, that could be a world in which I could write as long as I can get a good story. So I decided to think for a while about a story that could work there and work on my characters. And I said, like I said, I hope it reads a little bit like a D&D quest, Vengeance and Honor. And so I have a half elf who is on a search for his father. He knows his elf mother side, but he never met his father. And he, on his journey there, meets this drunken knight who has left his father's kingdom, is drinking his days away happily in a small village. It starts off in a tavern, as every a good quest adventure does. And due to a botched robbery, which the half elf intercepts, the two become friends that day. And then the following morning, the knight's girlfriend, the tavern maid, has been kidnapped, so they have to set off to find her. Along the way they meet a lustful archmage and a foxy cleric girl, who also sort of fall into the same band, and they face lots of enemies along the way on their journey to try and get her back. And it turns out that, of course, she's been kidnapped by the knight's father, the king, who wants him back for some reason or other, and they have to follow their paths that way. And at the end of that one, I have left it open for a sequel. It concludes in a nice way. I hate it when you get to the end of a book and think, oh, okay, I haven't really got a satisfactory ending there. So I've rounded it off nicely for the first part, but there are still story arcs for other characters in there, the other main characters to pursue into book 2, which is the one I'm currently writing.
And when did you start writing? I mean, what's your day job, and when did you start the writing stuff?
I'm a teacher, and one of the best parts about being a teacher is the summer holidays, because you have tremendous amount of time to write there. And so what I do is, while I'm in term time, I'm teaching, I'm gathering ideas, I'm writing down notes, getting plot points together, directions in which the story could go. And the good thing is, because I don't necessarily sit down and write all the time, I don't go down a direction where I get bogged down. I can think about it and then think, oh, actually, that was what I was hoping to do, but I don't really think that would work. And then change and think again and write some more ideas down. So when it comes to the summer holidays, which for us is just over a week's time, I have got so many ideas now. And I wrote a little bit over the Easter break, which we have, just to get it started. And now I'm ready to go champing at the bit to crack on and find out where these guys are going to go on their second adventure. And I know what's going to happen in this part, but I don't know quite how far it will go as to whether I could make it one longer book and finish it, or get part way through and then continue it with, if I've got enough to keep going for even longer afterwards, make a third book again.
So is Neil based on any student or conglomeration of students that you've had?
Well, actually, the way I got the idea for him, Always Telling the Truth, is my son, who's now 18, when he was probably about 5, was watching his older sister play a computer game on the Wii, and she was not doing very well, and she was getting very frustrated. And he turned to her and said, "You're not very good at this, are you?" And she was very cross with him and shouted at him. And I was there and thought, well, actually, that's not a very nice thing to say, but it is quite funny that he was always telling the truth. And so that sowed an idea in my mind. And then I thought of all situations where it could be quite funny if you always told the truth, and it just snowballed a little bit with ideas. And I thought having this evil genius older sister called Lemony Peel would be, in fact, that's where I got the name Neil Peel from, because I got her name first. I was just messaging a friend called Melanie and just turned around the consonants in there, and she became Lemony, and then the Lemony Peel surname came from that, and then his name came from that, and then more and more situations arose that I met at school. Actually, modern day school children that I'm meeting aren't quite as outrageous. We have things like pastoral care these days, which when I was young wasn't really a thing. I think bullies were allowed to thrive in the 80s when I was late 70s, early 80s when I was at school, and more funny things seemed to happen back then. And I don't think you were policed as much as you are these days. So I think I stole a lot of things from my own youth and things that happened. Just one incident in a PE lesson, I remember doing handstands, and somebody got this was an all boys school, but somebody got their shorts yanked off completely, and he was flapping around naked from the waist down. And I don't think you get away with that these days, but that made it into the book. So yeah, I think it was more things from when I was younger rather than the students I teach myself these days.
So you're giving kids these days ideas now?
Absolutely, yeah. How to have more fun at school.
So have you just gone the strict indie route, or did you try to send these to agents first or anything?
Well, the first one, when I'd written it, I think probably like a lot of authors, when you write your first one, you are super keen to, as soon as you type the end, you want people to be reading it. And that is unfortunately not a very realistic way to go about things. I was so excited. I got to the end of the story because, as you all know, many people can start a book. Some people might carry it on a little bit. A few people will get to halfway, and not very many will actually finish. So the percentage of people who start a book and finish is very small. And then, of course, there's that waiting if you want to get agency. Because the kind of books I'd written, nobody else was writing them. I don't know if you guys have heard of Adrian Mole from 1980s. It was English teen humor, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. This teenager who it was very popular. Everybody in England in the UK was reading those in the mid 80s, but nobody really carried on writing them afterwards. So nothing that became popular anyway. And I found that agents, I did write to a fair few agents. They were only seeming to be interested in what they already did. So if they did romantic fiction for young adults, that's what they wanted to stay in. If they did historical fiction, they only wanted to stick with that. And one or two people were willing to read a little bit, but all the agents I contacted, nobody was actually representing that sort of thing. They said, it sounds interesting, but it's not what I do. And then rather frustratingly, I had a contact at a colleague of mine had books published through Hodder, which is a big publisher. and he took a copy along and gave to his contact at Hodder, who said that she took it home. Her children read it and loved it, but they just couldn't do it because they couldn't go with it. It was too risque, and they weren't brave enough to represent something that they were saying some of the outrageous stuff that I was writing. It was perhaps too over the line rather than what they're willing to do. And I'm afraid I was not very politically correct in what I've written in most of those books. As I said, what perhaps a lot of children will want to read rather than what they are allowed to read by publishers. So yeah, I'm afraid to say I went with a hybrid publisher on the first one because I didn't really know any better. But it got the first one out there and it made it available worldwide. But after the experience with that, having to do all the marketing myself anyway, I've self-published the second and third in that trilogy, and the and Vengeance and Honor, the fantasy one. I self-published that one as well, and found that actually much more pleasant an experience, really.
So you do a lot of your sales as ebooks then?
Yeah, ebooks and paperbacks, whichever people have. I mean, the one thing I have had questions about audiobooks, and I publish mine through Amazon KDP, and I know that in the US, I think you can do an audiobook version, which I would love to do. I could put little sound effects in and tell the stories. I'd be happy to tell them myself. But unfortunately, if on KDP in the UK, you cannot yet upload your own audio files. So yeah, I would consider that if that ever moves into the UK market. But yeah, it's just paperback and ebook, and yeah, however people prefer to read. I think with the Neil Peel ones, if it is the teen readers who are picking them up, then I don't think many teens in the UK seem to have Kindles. They mainly do paperback. But actually, I'm having more success at the moment in the US than I am in the UK. So yeah, that's a slightly different market. I know you drop down the rankings much more quickly in the US because there are far more readers. But yeah, half Kindle, half paperback, I suppose.
So do you have Audible there in England?
We do, but it's not. I would have to do it separately, and yeah, it's just not something that you can go to straight through. I suppose I could do the Audible, but it would be a different way of doing it rather than keeping it all together in one area. And I suppose I'm just holding out for Amazon KDP to allow audio upload in for UK users.
So I'll tell you, I have audiobooks for 3 of my books, and I went through Audible. But if you go to Amazon, it'll show up in the Amazon listing along with my paperback and hardback and ebook. So maybe look into that. If you're going to do it yourself, then wonderful. I paid for a narrator, and that's pricey. But he made my book way better than it really was by his narration. So I have no complaints.
Yeah, I do get quite a lot of. I get a lot of approaches on Instagram from narrators who are asking the same thing. Do I want representation? And I know they cost a lot. And I being an indie author, you can't be in it for the money, can you? Really, or else I'm in it to get them out there to as many people as I can. That I know the money isn't something that props up too much. It's the joy of someone reading it and saying they've enjoyed it. That's what I'm there for. And the more people can do that, the better. Which actually is why, like I said, I've tried to make all the other books, even the ones which are supposed teen humor. I've tried to make them accessible to anyone. And people have said, what age group are they aimed at? The sorcery one, is it for young adults or is it for adults? And when I'm asked that question, I wouldn't have the gall to compare it with Tolkien, but I would say, well, who is Lord of the Rings aimed at? It's not aimed at teens, but teens read it. It's not aimed at adults. It's just a great story which is accessible to lots of people. And I suppose because he's not it's not swearing all the way through and there's not graphic sex or anything, then it's accessible to all. And the violence in a book is as graphic as your mind makes it out to be. So if you want it to be bloody and and graphic, then it will be. If it's not, then it won't. And with Vengeance and Honor, there's some casual nudity in it, mainly played for humor, but it's been read by people as young as 11 at my school. Some of the pupils have read it and enjoyed it. They some bits they perhaps wouldn't share with their parents, but I would say it's more a story that, if it were made into a film, would be for adults.
Now, you said your brother's involved in the cinema industry.
Yeah, well, yeah, my younger brothers, yeah.
Is that in the making of cinema or the projecting of cinema?
Well, he works for Showcase Cinemas, which I believe is in the US as well. It's a US company, and he's the marketing director. So when that's UK wide, he's worked for them, and so he gets a lot of invitations to premieres, and he usually needs a +1. And fortunately, because I have a great love for film, I'm often on his list, and I live fairly close to London, as I said. I'm often his +1 to go and see, as a Dark Knight Rises premiere and Sherlock Holmes, and I'm walking on the green carpet, as that was, past Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law, and on Dark Knight, walking behind Christian Bale and Morgan Freeman and Hans Zimmer and all those guys, and probably getting caught in the back of the photos of who's that guy. Well, I'm just the lucky one who's able to go and see a couple of these things. So yeah, I've been very fortunate to see that.
Slip them into the goodie bags.
Yeah, some goodie bags. No Time to Die had a decent goodie bag. The Dark Knight Rises was the best one, because the after party after that, I was able to go to that, and there were lots of young ladies dressed as Catwoman, bringing round free champagne and little fish and chips in a cone, and I got to have a little go on that. A sit on that the bat bike that he uses, and that with the tires, which are about 14, 16 inches wide, for a photo. And I'm very lucky to have been able to go to a couple of those events.
Yeah, well, Cena wants to replace you.
She's asking if your brother is single.
He is not, I'm afraid. No. I'll tell him there's interest, though. I'll get him to watch it back if he's not watching it now. If he's not watching it now, because he's in Barcelona every year there's new films that are coming out over the summer and later into the winter. You get sneak previews of them, and he gets invited to that every year. So I know he's not probably watching right now.
What a great job.
Yeah.
How do you get hooked up with that?
Yeah, I mean, he got the job I suppose I would have wanted, because I was a film reviewer while I was at university for a couple of years, and I got to see everything around 95 to 96 free, and could take a friend. So I was quite popular at that age as well, when you don't have much money as a student, and people wanting to come to see films with me. And I went a couple of times a week and didn't have to pay for 2 whole years. So that was very nice. I just had to do a review once a week, but that was fine.
Ben, I'm curious. It's been a while since I've been to a movie theater in Britain, but the last time I was, and this was probably for a Harry Potter film, they would, right before the movie started, and they would actually put in an intermission, and someone would come out from the concession stand with like a tray of chocolates and things like that you could just go and buy. You didn't even have to like leave the theater, right? You just like walk down the steps, and do they still do that?
Not so much these days. That's quite old school. It's definitely something I was just thinking back to. I think Superman, the movie, was the first thing I saw, and first thing I remember seeing in the cinema in 1978. And definitely at the time, you would have ice cream or chocolate or popcorn, and somebody would have that on the tray in front of them, and you go and you don't have to leave the actual theater to go and get that.
2002.
Okay, some of them like to have that old school feel to them. It still happens in theaters for live action. I suppose theater in America is often thought of as a movie theater. We would always just say the cinema, whereas the theater for stage acting,
Right.
It still often happens in those. But generally, you have to leave and go to the concession stand outside for your.
It's probably something in smaller communities. Maybe they still, because this was up in like Bury St Edmunds kind of area up in Suffolk. So
I suppose if they've got their older style ones, then they may still do that just to keep the charm of that kind of era going.
Nice. All right, Mike, what do you think?
So I'm going to ask my question.
Oh, really? Do you have to?
So
Okay,
Ben,
go ahead.
I contend
You're going to be disappointed again.
there's only one correct answer, and Rose on the wrong side.
Okay.
95% of the people.
But I want you to imagine you're going down the main street of your city, and you're in a saddle. And this saddle is either on a T-Rex or a Griffin. Which one do you choose and why?
A T-Rex or a what?
Or a Griffin?
Ooh,
We are already split T-Rex and a Griffin. So
I think I would definitely I would go for the Griffin, and that is the T-Rex would clear the way a bit more quickly, I reckon, if I wanted to get through. But I would definitely like the flying ability of having heading over the top. Yeah, sorry if that's I've gone with you there, Mike. Have I on that one?
You have not. No. Mike's a bit of a masochist. He just likes to hurt himself like this by asking this question of everyone. Very few people pick the dinosaur.
Yeah, I think there's perhaps because it's there's more chance of taming that Griffin than there is the T-Rex. The T-Rex is going to toss you over the back and munch you down there. So I think I'm going to go with the Griffin.
Okay, now my next question is tell us about your half-elf from your sword and sorcery.
About my what? Sorry, my
The half-elf? Is that
the half-elf? Yeah, Hendel, the half-elf. Yeah, he's so as I say, yeah, he's grown up in the glades of Morad, and as he got slightly older, started fitting in less. The half part of him being a half elf has not helped really. It's not helped with him fitting in. He liked a girl there who seemed to like him back, but wasn't able to. He wasn't able to pursue that because she couldn't see herself with someone who wasn't a pure elf. So he has left and is on this journey to find his father, to try and understand the human half of him. And in fact, one of my favorite chapters that I wrote it was called Cheese Dreams, and they end up on their quest with a load of goat's cheese, and that's all they've got to eat left at the end of their rations, and they will have a load of cheese and go to sleep, and all four of them have crazy dreams. So his dream takes him back to Morad, and it's basically all their hopes in some cases, but mainly fears that come out in the dreams. And he goes back and sees Rick, who has become his good friend, is the drunken knight, kissing the girl who he used to like, and everybody, the whole community says they've all had a go with this girl he used to like. Including his mother, says that she has, and basically all his fears come out of and yes, but he's the book initially seemed like it might be his journey to try and find his father, but it sort of gets shanghaied along the way by Rick's pursuit of his girlfriend who's been kidnapped. So although we get to see a lot of Hendel, who is probably a co-main character because he's in it right from the beginning, right to the end, as is Rick the Knight, and the other two, the Archmage and the Cleric, come in partway through. They are there for most of the way and become main characters, but they're not right in at the beginning.
Okay, Ben, this is what we're going to do, is we're going to take one of your characters, and you can pick any one of those four, and we're going to run them through a little scenario. And we'll see what happens, but it's a way for us to learn a little bit about the character, a little bit about your story without you giving us any spoilers. So which one of those four characters would you like to use for this?
I think I will go with. I don't want to pick a favorite. It's like picking. I've got four children. I've got four main characters, and I can't pick a favorite. And they all have the reason the team works so well together is because they've all got their different strengths. But I would probably go for Stefan, who is the.
Who's that?
I'm going to go with Stefan, who is the Archmage, because I think he'll be able to cope with any of the scenarios you give. I hope.
Theo will be happy.
Okay. So have you seen the Bald Dome on our show?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's where we're. So you knew to pick wisely. Okay. So Stephen has been magically transported to the Crystal Lake. And again, this is Chat GPT, so bear with me. Let me hold on here. Not too much. I can do it. The lake's surface shimmers with an unnatural gleam, mirrored by twin moons hanging low in the sky. Strange fish with translucent scales leap from in graceful arcs, leaving ripples that distort the reflection of the towering ivory-clad ruins on the shore. Okay. Beneath the water, ancient crowns and enchanted blades lay half buried in the silt, guarded by silver-scaled water serpents that watch with jewel-bright eyes. So we got the ivory-clad ruins, we got the lake. Have at it. Now the question is, what is your favorite color?
Blue.
Okay, you have a blue fizzy potion that is 100% effective, but you have no idea what it does. Now, do you want a common item or do you want a weapon? Common item, you'll face a common animal. A weapon, you'll face a fantasy creature.
Let's go for a common item.
Okay, and I rolled a 1 for that, which is completely what I normally do. Stefan has flint and steel.
Okay, doesn't actually need that because he can create fire just like that. But anyway, let's carry on. Yeah.
If he would have chosen a weapon, he would have got a 6-foot glaive. But now he is in this crystal lake with the ivory tower, ivory tower. He looks upon, and lo and behold, there's a Komodo dragon swimming in the lake, coming right at him. It doesn't look, it's a reptile, so it doesn't really have any feelings. It's just swimming right at him. Tail is going back and forth.
The Komodo dragon is the koala bear of dragons.
It's the only real animal that's named dragon. So anyway, it's coming at you. Stephen has his flint and steel, which he doesn't need, and his blue fizzy potion, which he doesn't know what it does. What happens next?
Well, Rick teases him for having his knapsack, his backpack, which he calls a gander bag, and he's got plenty of stuff in there for his items for his magic spells, because he is, as I say, he's an archmage, and he's very, very confident in his own ability. He has limited combat experience, but and so the first couple of times they're called into combat, he tends to be a little bit selfish, but grows into how to use his magic to take on. In some cases, there is a real dragon in the story, which perhaps is a little more fearsome than the Komodo dragon, but they had got at least time to plan what to do with this one. When you said Crystal Lake, by the way, I initially was picturing Jason Voorhees. I thought it was going to be Camp Crystal Lake, but we're not that Crystal Lake.
No.
So is Stefan on the shore, or is he on the water in a boat or something?
He is on the shore.
Right. I think he would be fairly confident about handling himself against this dragon. He's got a spell to turn his skin to stone so that he can't be damaged by anything there. He's got, as I say, he's got fire ability, which might keep something like that at bay. He's not a cruel guy who would just be killing for the sake of it. I don't think he would feel the need to take that potion, because, as I say, I think he's got enough magic. If I picked a different character, there may have been a different response, but I don't think he would need to take the potion. I think and he's got the ability to turn invisible with his spells, or move very quickly kind of teleport to different places. So I think he could take on this Komodo dragon, and as long as he can see the ivory tower at the top, he could get up there without having to cross over. So he can't take everybody else with him necessarily, but I think he would be okay to get around it.
So I guess the question is, does he look at the crowns or the swords that are half buried in the silt and decide that he wants some treasure, or does he just, say, I'm out of here, better luck next time?
Yeah, he's not so much of a glory hunter. In fact, at the beginning of the book, he's trying to find a purpose. He's quite young to be called an archmage. He admits that himself, and he's just, from as long as he can remember, he was abandoned and brought up by his master, an archmage, and then as his master got older, he learned an awful lot through him. But then one day, as always happens in these situations, the master dies, and then he doesn't know what to do with his life, and so he sets out from the tower where he's been living, and has a couple of encounters on the way. And in fact, Rick and Hendel bump into him while he is invisible halfway up the tree, spying on a naked wood nymph who inhabits the forest nearby, and he's just doing that because he's got nothing else to do. So I don't think he's the kind of treasure seeker who's going to be diving into Crystal Lake to get anything back. He's just looking for a raison d'être, a reason to for his existence, and he jumps at the chance to help someone in a quest and thinks, yeah, you can use my magic. I've got skills, a certain set of skills that can help you. So I think on his own he would not be treasure hunting unless it was for an immediate purpose, like to get some food, or he's not a glory hunter.
So basically, this Komodo dragon has no chance. He's just going to decide, I choose not to fight, and go on about his merry way.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
He doesn't want to, try to get it as his faithful steed or anything like that. He's just going away. Yeah,
he could. If the Komodo dragon came out, I think actual Komodo dragons aren't very quick, are they? They're just lizard, basically big lizards. But if it came after him, he could freeze it or set it on fire or something like that. He would probably not give too much of a crap about that, really. He'd go on his merry way.
Okay, well, that is yet another one that has not happened before in the Bald Dome, but that's okay. We learned about Stefan, so that's good. I've asked all my questions, Ro. What do you got?
I'm good. When do you think your next book is going to be done, Ben?
Well, like I said, because I'm coming up to summer vacation in just over a week's time, and I will plow on through. I've got 9 weeks of summer break, a couple of holidays in there, but I'm hoping to get through as much as I can by September. And then what usually happens is, I know I said I'm gathering ideas through most of the term time, but I usually, once I get near to like 3/4 of the way through a book, I will work evenings and weekends to make sure that because the enthusiasm is there, really there, and my adrenaline is pumping to find out how it's going to end anyway. So I'm hopeful that I might possibly get it out before Christmas, if all being well. Yeah.
Do you have a website?
I do, yes. The website is actually the domain name I took when I was writing the first 3 books. So it's neilpeel.com. But I do put information about Vengeance and Honor on there. Really, I suppose my Instagram is the place that I update most frequently because it's a bit easier. And so, yeah, Ben Dixon, author, on Instagram is my handle, and that's where I will put more updates, I suppose. I try not to flood it because following a few other fantasy authors, I'm not that keen on seeing AI versions of their characters, which tends to be very popular. In some ways, I know it's a nice, easy way, if I were to put in a description of Hendel, to have something visual for potential readers to hang on to. But I'm personally not very fond of the AI, certainly not for writing, but also not for the generating images of the characters. And I know it's a bit flooded with that. So it's a bit harder to update people by just putting another picture of the front cover, another picture of the front cover, without your post blending into one. So that saturation is not something I usually do, but that's where most of my updates will go. But anyone who's interested in the Neil Peel books with a bit more of the characters explained and reviews and so on could have a look at neilpeel.com. Yeah, that's probably the best place.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us from England. I know it's a little late for you.
No, a pleasure, a total pleasure. And thank you for giving up your time during the day to chat with me.
Yeah. We have no life. We're good.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be writing, so this is an excuse that I can, not write.
There it is.
So you are very helpful to us. We have a real excuse this time.
Well, thanks to everyone who's here, and Mike and I will not be back until next Wednesday at 8 p.m., where we will talk to Timothy Robert. All right.
Ben, thank you for showing up today. Love chatting with you. And let us know when your next book is coming out. We can shout it if nothing else.
Yeah, will do. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay.
Time to wave
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.